Money changes everything. It can effortlessly shake the solid, time-tested foundations of the oldest and most sacred relationships. But when pure, unadulterated greed seeps directly into your own bloodline, that relationship instantly ceases to be family. It becomes absolute, lethal venom. I never could have imagined in my wildest nightmares that my biological brother, Liam, would orchestrate such a cold, calculated, and malicious corporate conspiracy against me. He foolishly assumed I was weak and easily manipulated simply because I was a woman. He mistook my silence, my composure, and my endless patience for utter vulnerability and fear. But he made a fatal, irreversible mistake. Today, I will tell you exactly how I trapped my entitled brother in the very net of greed he meticulously spun, saving our sacred family legacy from total, crushing destruction. This is a story of calculated justice, served stone cold. Our sprawling family estate, widely known across the region as the Willow Creek, was never just 50 acres of prime, lucrative land to us. My father spent his entire life, his sweat, his health, and his youth carefully nurturing every single tree, every stone, and every quiet corner of this beautiful property. As long as Dad was alive and running the show with his firm hand, everything was completely fine. Liam, however, was always the pampered, fiercely protected golden child of the household. He was an absolute, certified zero in academics, consistently shirked any form of honest hard labor, yet he remained our father's favorite son. On the other hand, I spent years working right beside Dad in the mud, handling the tough, exhausting office paperwork and managing complex legal matters that Liam couldn't even begin to comprehend. When Dad finally passed away, he ensured justice was done in his final will. He legally split the entire property between the two of us, a perfect 50-50 division. But for Liam, this equal share was nowhere near enough for his massive ego. He firmly believed that a family estate belonged exclusively to the male heir. Every single day, he would pick explosive, screaming fights with me in the hallways, loudly demanding that I sell my half to him for pennies and move away to the city. I flatly refused every single time. That estate was my soul. The shocking, life-altering turning point came late one stormy Tuesday night. I was sitting entirely alone in the dim estate office, meticulously sorting through old tax files and dusty accounting archives. Suddenly, my eyes caught a specific document that had absolutely no business being inside that folder. It was a fresh, highly detailed property valuation report dated just 2 days prior. Liam had quietly gone behind my back, contacting a notorious corporate real estate agent to value the entire estate for immediate sale. As I dug deeper into the digital registry, the horrifying truth left me completely breathless. Liam had forged my legal signature on official government documents, successfully listing the entire undivided Willow Creek estate for immediate corporate sale on the open market. He was committing outright fraud against his own sister. His plan was to sell the entire legacy to an anonymous corporate buyer for quick cash, grab the millions, and flee the country before I ever found out. I stood there shivering in the dim office light, feeling a sickening wave of betrayal. I had two distinct choices. I could go straight to the police and let a messy fraud case drag through the broken court system for a decade, or I could teach my entitled brother a lesson so brutal he would never dare raise his head against me again. I immediately called my childhood best friend, who happens to be one of the sharpest, most ruthless corporate defense lawyers in the state. Together, we hatched a brilliant, airtight master plan. We quietly registered a discreet, untraceable front company, nomming it Legacy Holdings. I gathered every single penny of my life savings, liquidated my personal jewelry, and withdrew the secret investments my father had set up for me decades ago, investments Liam knew absolutely nothing about. Through my lawyer, we approached Liam's real estate agent, posing as wealthy, aggressive developers. We submitted a massive, undeniable cash offer that was a staggering 20% above the current market value. Liam was absolutely ecstatic. He was completely blinded by the sudden influx of wealth, genuinely believing some foolish corporate investor was overpaying him out of pure ignorance. The next evening, he walked past me in the hallway, a smug, arrogant grin plastered across his face. "Maya, you are just a temporary guest in this house now," he sneered condescendingly, barely looking at me. "Enjoy these walls while you still can, because in a few short days, this entire place will belong to someone else." I simply forced a calm smile and said absolutely nothing. He had no idea the investor was his own sister. The final signing day arrived, and the atmosphere in the corporate boardroom was heavy with tension. Liam arrived wearing an expensive new suit, sitting at the head of the mahogany table like a newly crowned king. With immense arrogance, he signed the final deed transfer documents without reading a single line of the fine print. The moment the massive wire transfer hit his bank account, he leaned back in his leather chair, looking at me with pure disdain. "Well, Maya," he said, his voice dripping with triumph. "It is officially over. Pack up your pathetic bags and clear out of my sight. This estate has been sold to a conglomerate." I took a deep, steadying breath, crossed my arms, and gave a sharp nod to my lawyer. He calmly reached into his briefcase, pulled out the certified corporate registry of legacy holdings, and slid the documents across the table directly in front of my brother. I looked him dead in the eyes, my voice dropping to a cold, unwavering whisper. "You are entirely right, Liam. The estate has been sold, but you didn't sell it to a stranger. You just sold your entire birthright to me." The color drained from his face so quickly it looked as though he had seen a ghost. His jaw dropped, his hands shaking as he grabbed the corporate documents. "What? No, this is impossible. You don't have this kind of money," he stammered, his arrogance instantly evaporating into thin air. I calmly reached into my bag, pulled out the original file containing the forged signatures he had executed behind my back, and slammed it down on top of the deed. "I know exactly what you did, Liam. You forged my name to steal my father's legacy. So here is your only ultimatum. Either you quietly pack your things, leave this property forever, and never contact me again, or I press the button right now to hand this entire file to the federal fraud unit. Forgery and grand larceny carry a 10-year prison sentence. The choice is yours." The sheer terror in his eyes was instantly visible. He realized he was completely trapped, outsmarted, and legally ruined. Without uttering a single syllable, he stumbled out of the boardroom, fleeing the building in total disgrace. In his pathetic greed, he lost his half of the estate, his millions, and the trust of the only family he had left. The following months were quiet, filled with the peaceful sounds of Willow Creek finally breathing freely. Today, the estate is completely mine, and the legacy my father built with his bare hands is entirely safe from corruption. My entitled brother learned the hardest lesson of his life. Karma never forgets a face, and greed always consumes itself in the end. I stood out on the front porch, watching the sunset over the valley, knowing that the land finally belonged to the person who truly respected it.